Gaza's only power station has run out of fuel. It is utterly desperate there. We were hearing earlier from a journalist live in Jerusalem about the contact he's had with people who are living there. We know that they've cut off energy supplies, food, water. Gazans are relying on generators now for electricity if they have fuel to power them. Well, the Israeli military say hundreds of thousands of troops are near Gaza, ready, I'm quoting here, to execute the mission they've been given. And the death toll in Israel from the Hamas attacks has reached now 1,200. We also know that inside Gaza, more than 1,000 people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes. The analysis we got earlier live from Jerusalem is that this is just the early days. Well, there are many unanswered questions about the humanitarian side of this war. Joining us now to discuss this is Ahmed Benchemsi, Middle East and North Africa Communications Director at Human Rights Watch. Ahmed, what do you know of, we know of the critical need. How much humanitarian support is there to people in Israel, but also in Gaza too?
Well, I mean, the people in Gaza obviously need material support immediately because the electricity has been cut off. As you said, the power plant doesn't have electricity anymore. And the Minister of Defense of Israel said it very bluntly on TV that he's going to cut like food and water and electricity and basic supplies, which is basically collective punishment. And that is a war crime. Also, starving a population as a means of warfare is a war crime. And you can't just go on TV and say that brazenly as if it was legitimate. It is. Israel has a legitimate right to defend itself, but not by violating the rules of war, not by besieging a city and starving 2 million people for the crimes committed by a small minority. That's what's happening.
Your words there slightly echo the words of Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign affairs lead, who said Israel, that there's got to be some kind of caution that what they do isn't that they breach international law in their response. Now, the UN want there to be a humanitarian corridor opened up into Gaza. Just talk us through the sort of complexities of something like that actually happening in terms of negotiations, presumably that would have to happen to start with, and then practically and physically getting aid in.
Well, I mean, we are not a humanitarian organization. We are not in the business of, collecting and disseminating first aid. We are a human rights organization, which means that we monitor violations on the ground, we report on them, and we advocate with governments to help address human rights violations. Obviously, we are very concerned with the humanitarian situation there, and we are observing as far as possible.
That's okay, obviously. It's a really busy time. I can understand lots of people are trying to get in touch with you.
Exactly. I'm getting another interview because there was a mix-up in the timing, but yeah.
Well, just really briefly then, you've mentioned sort of internationally how this is playing out. The US have, with absolute full throttle, thrown their weight behind Israel and Israel's actions. How concerned are you about what could be? It's already been a catastrophic loss of life. How concerned are you about that escalating, given the current state of where we see the conflict?
I'm concerned about the conduct of operations, given how they were announced by the Israeli government, and they were not announced in a good way. They're acting like if they had a green card from the international community to do exactly what they want in the name of self-defense. Again, when the Minister of Defense goes on TV and announces bluntly that he's about to commit a war crime, and no ally country, either the US or any European country, says, wait a minute. I mean, we support your right to defend yourself against terror attacks, but not this way. No one is saying that, which means that free rein is given to Israel to commit, atrocities and to collectively punish millions, literally 2 million of people, and God knows how many thousands of innocent who might perish because of indiscriminated attacks, as just like what happened in the past with no accountability. So yes, we are very concerned of what might happen in the next few days and weeks, based on patterns of violations that have been happening in Gaza in the previous conflicts.
Yeah, and clearly those violations are happening on both sides. Thank you so much.
They are happening on both sides, but one violation on one side does not justify the violation on the other side. This is not a